All right, we finally got a decent little break in the weather right before it's gonna get frigidly cold. So what we wanna do is we wanna get rid of all of this old bedding. This bedding has been in here for actually a month now. We ended up deep layering. So we had 2 weeks of fresh sawdust in here, and then we ended up bringing 2 more weeks in. So this is a month's worth of manure and hay residue and sawdust. We're gonna pile it all up. We won't be able to spread it today though, because remember how I said it got warmer? It is. But that also means that all the frozen precipitation we got has melted. It means that it's really soft and pretty soggy out in the pastures and even in the hayfield. So what we're gonna do is kind of like we've already started right here. We're gonna get it all piled up, probably mostly in this corner, because that gate is the one that I use to let them out to go to the feedlot. We get as much as we can piled up right here so that we can have the floor clear, and we'll put this new sawdust right behind us all over the floor. And in a couple days, you'll see us spread political promises. We're waiting a couple days because it is supposed to get frigidly cold. It's gonna be down in the negatives overnight, so it's gonna be cold. But that does mean that the ground will be solid, which is helpful for us. So to make all this happen, I'm not gonna do the finger snap trick. I'm gonna do a time lapse. Real quick before we do all that and actually scrape all this, I want you to just kind of see what this is. So obviously it's a lot of hay residue from the sheep. They're gonna waste it. We've made these feeders ourselves, and this is the most minimal amount of waste we have been able to achieve, but there's always gonna be waste. The sawdust obviously absorbs all the urine, but it also coats the manure and makes it to where whenever I step on it or the sheep step on it, it doesn't get packed into their feet and it doesn't get packed into the tread of my shoes. Really awesome, and makes it to where it's a much cleaner environment for the sheep to live in. Also makes it much cleaner for whenever they birth, because all the fluids that come out, same thing, they get absorbed with all the sawdust as well. Well, for those of us that are far less prepared for rough winds and cold weather in the winter, hard lessons are learned, such as this morning. The fuel was gelled up in the skid steer, so I had to use a little propane heater to thaw it out some. And I'm gonna let you guys enjoy the fun with the tractor because I haven't tried it yet either, but I would assume it's in the same boat. I just can't remember which one, you know, like the tractor, it's been sooner that I filled it up versus the skid steer, but we'll see. We'll let the battery charger run on that for a minute. On a brighter note, you've seen it smoking, so that means it's getting fuel. Whereas the skid steer wasn't smoking at all. It was just cranking, no smoke. Man, it wasn't getting fuel. As soon as you felt that primer bulb, it was solid as a rock. Maybe not a rock. You could squeeze it very little. So it was pretty obvious that we needed to do something with it and warm it up to ungel it. Pretty sure the skid steer was filled up in like fall last. It doesn't have winter. Now the goal right now, I've got the skid steer parked right there to kind of block the sheep and kind of make them run down this alleyway. Well, I guess you can see it. This alleyway right here. I want them to go up there. We're splitting the barn in half just for the purpose of me being able to run around with the skid steer right here with no worries about an animal being in my way and run anything over. So we're gonna bring them in here. We're gonna shut this gate behind me. That'll block them all up there. And then we'll be right here. We'll grab a scoop, dump it over this right here into our manure spreader, And we'll just do that the whole time until it's gone. And if I was a betting man, I'd say there's probably 10 or 15 loads there. It's quite a bit. It's 2 weeks, or well, it's a month worth. All right, Spirit, come. Spirit, come. Good girl. No. Spirit. Ow. All right, back at it. Let's see if we can't get this thing to fire up now. Hopefully the battery charger did enough. All right, she did it. Now those of you that have been on the channel before, you guys know this is a 1984 Allis Challmers 8030. You also know that it has ether if you want to use it, but it doesn't have glow plugs or an intake heater. We don't use the ether. We also didn't use the block heater this morning because honestly, I didn't think I was going to actually spread manure today. However, we didn't get near the snow we were supposed to that they were originally calling for, and led to the fact that the ground is nice and frozen and solid. The manure is not frozen because when you stack it up, it stays warm. Makes it to where we can easily go and scoop it up, get it out of here, and get it spread on our hay field. So -4 ambient temperature overnight. Right now, I think it's about 4 degrees out above zero. It's just cold, and it doesn't matter. It's still fired up. Now the batteries are weaker than what I would normally have them as. I've never had to jump start it, but it's also substantially colder than it ever really gets here in South Central Missouri. All in all, I think this is... So you might be wondering why I wait, and the biggest reason is simple. It's frozen. So when the ground's frozen, I really can't do any damage to it. I can't compact it. I can't make ruts. You know, even if I spin my tires because it's slick, it doesn't dig in the ground and dig down. It just spins on the top on the ice. It looks pretty cool. I take that back. It's not hitting my back window right now because we're heading the opposite direction. But either way, campaign trail is being marked. Did have a little mishap, as you can see, where we got off the line, and it was definitely not recording either. I think the next step is probably just keep loading and... Oh, Spirit, you're on the... You disengaged us, Spirit. She hit the foot pedal right there. It's alright, it's accident. That's gonna work out perfect. So we got 3 full rows off of 1 load. That's gonna work out really well. Actually, we'll probably have a little more than 3 rows. We're gonna grab the next load, and then we'll get the drone up in the air so you can see this. Looks pretty neat. I think you're gonna be able to see it up here in the field where there's steam coming off of the ground where we just laid that manure. Open the door so you can see what it looks like. Now nothing's really changed from last year as far as how we spread this and everything else. We're still doing 10-foot swaths, so this doesn't spread 10 foot. It's probably about 6.5, 7 feet. It just doesn't go far to either side unless the wind's blowing it. But it's like that because obviously rains and everything else wash some of it in different places, and it's spread well enough that it'll be just fine. probably noticed that I had a little issue with a belt on one of those drone videos. Not sure what the deal was. I think something was just stuck on the beater at the back. It just kind of had it wedged because I played around back there a little bit and tried to spin it by hand, and I got it going by hand after I tried pretty hard, and then no issues from there. That belt is very old and it does need replaced though. It desperately needs replaced. I didn't realize it was as bad as it was. It's covered by a shield, so I honestly never see anything except for the very outside of it. The very outside actually looks alright, but the inside on the V, a bunch of the pieces of rubber are missing. Alright, so right here on the screen I have pulled up the acreage that we covered today while spreading manure. So, those numbers right there means that we covered 5.85 acres all day with manure. What are we doing with that? Well, it helps me figure out what amount of manure I'm actually placing on my land per acre. So just like any other fertilizer, it kind of boils down to how many pounds an acre am I going to put down. I want to know how many pounds an acre I'm putting down. What I'm actually aiming for in pounds per acre is very much different than commercial fertilizer. So our sheep produce about 4 pounds of manure per day. We have 180 of them. That calculates out to like 21,600 pounds or something like that. Plus 4,400 pounds or 4,600 pounds from from bedding. So the sawdust, we basically pick up 1 ton of sawdust every 2 weeks. And then we also calculated in the other 600 pounds that I was talking about in that 4,600 is the hay residue, because we presume that 5% of our bales are wasted, and our bales weigh about 1,200 pounds, but for easy math, we just leave it as 50 pounds of bale is wasted. Now, all that being said and done, right, we divide all of that, which was like 26,000 some odd pounds, divided into 5.85 acres, and we pretty well come out, when we divide all that up and figure out how many tons an acre we're putting down, we're putting in a hair over 2 tons an acre. It ends up being like 4,360 something pounds an acre. Is it a lot? Well, yeah, I mean, general weight, yeah, that's quite a bit of weight. However, it's just a lot different than everything else. So like my manure has nitrogen and phosphorus and has all these different nutrients in it, but it's not the same compound as a commercial fertilizer. So the general rule of thumb is basically you can spread anywhere from 2 tons to 4 tons an acre. Now we stay on the low end because we've seen good results with it on the low end. This hayfield keeps producing more and more every year, and we're hoping to continue that trend, but it's hard to say because weather always plays into it, along with a lot of other things. However, I hope you enjoyed the video and you found it useful and educational. I'm gonna put this thing away and call it a night. It's starting to snow a little bit. We're not gonna get anything really measurable, but I just want to get inside and eat something. I'm hungry. So have a great day, and hope you have a blessed week. We'll see you next time.